Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Doug, and I have someone I want you to meet. Amos, come here. This is Amos. Amos has been with us for almost 9 years, and he does this amazing trick. Let me show you. When you hold a piece of food, he will listen to everything you say. Amos, sit down. But if that food is over there, he's not going to hear anything you say. Oh, he escaped. Amos, sit down. Oh, he's not doing any of it. Poor Amos. He's got a little bit of beagle in him, and that kind of means that whenever he gets to going, whenever he sees food or something like that, his brain just shuts everything else off, and all he can see is that food. He's really good at listening when he doesn't have those kinds of things, but whenever it's something that distracts him from the thing that he really wants, which is that food, he's just not going to listen. And unfortunately, I think that sometimes describes how we relate to God sometimes, right? Sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we get focused on something that we want, and we have a hard time hearing what God is telling us. And we have a hard time listening and obeying. Listening and obeying isn't easy even when things are going great and when you're paying attention. And it's even more so when it's hard to hear. So I think the trick might be to cut down on some of those things that distract us. To always keep our ears out, listening for what God is telling us. Have a wonderful day.
Have you ever disobeyed your parents? Like done something that they told you not to do? I'm guessing you have. I know I sometimes used to. So, what happened when your parents found out about it? Did they say, "Oh, that's okay," and then go buy you ice cream? No, I didn't think so. If your parents are like mine, they were pretty unhappy. Maybe they even yelled at you, or they punished you in some other way. Our parents give us rules to keep us safe and to help us learn to respect ourselves and each other. So when we break those rules and do things that we shouldn't do, we might be putting ourselves or other people in danger. And as you know, when we break those rules, we probably get in trouble. Well, that's what happened to the people in our story, Adam and Eve. They disobeyed God, and they got into trouble. Our story today is told in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, chapters 2 and 3. Do you remember our story of creation? When God created all the world, including people? Well, Adam and Eve were the first people that God created. They're the ones he gave the beautiful world to enjoy and to take care of. And the place they lived was called the Garden of Eden. In this garden, they had everything they could possibly ever want. They had all kinds of delicious food, and they had all of the animals and the wonderful plants that God had created for them, and perfect weather. God gave them everything to make them happy. They didn't even need clothes because everything was so perfect. Well, in this garden, there was one thing, only one thing, that God had told Adam and Eve they must never touch. There was a tree. One tree. One tree in their entire world that God told them they must never touch. He said they must never, never, never eat the fruit from this tree that he told them was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In fact, God told them that if they ever ate that fruit, they would die. For a long time, Adam and Eve were very happy, and they took care of the garden that God had given them. They loved the world, they loved God, and they loved each other. But one day, I bet you know what's going to happen. One day, Eve was out walking in a place that was near this forbidden tree, and she heard the snake talking to her. Now, back in the beginning of the world, Adam and Eve could understand the language of the animals, and the animals could understand them. So Eve was not surprised to hear the snake talking to her. But she was surprised at what the snake was saying. The snake asked Eve if God hadn't told them that they could eat the fruit from any of the trees in the garden. And Eve said, yes, except we may eat the fruit of all the trees in the garden except this one tree, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because if we do, we will die. The snake said, you really won't die. God just said that because he knows that if you eat the fruit, your eyes will be open and you will be just like God. You're going to know all about good and evil. Does this sound like something that you might hear from somebody that you hang around with? Some sneaky snake who says, I dare you. You don't have to pay attention to what God said. I bet you can figure out what happened next. Eve thought about what the snake said. She looked at the tree, and the fruit that was on that tree did look quite delicious. And as she thought about the fruit and how delicious it looked and how the snake had told her that this fruit would make her wise so that she understood good and evil and how much she would like that, and well, she took one of the fruits and she bit into it. You know what? It was just as delicious as it looked. Yum! And because she thought it was so delicious, she took the fruit to Adam and told him to try it too. Adam was appalled. He said God had forbidden them to even touch that fruit. But Eve convinced him to try it. So Adam also took a few bites. Then, the first thing they noticed was that they didn't die. And the next thing they noticed was that they were naked. And when they realized they were naked, they decided that being naked was a bad thing and they were ashamed of themselves. And so they quickly sewed together some big leaves from a fig tree in order to cover themselves. In a little while, they heard God calling them. But instead of answering, they hid. I think they hoped God wouldn't find them. But he did. And when he did, he asked why they were hiding. And Adam said they were hiding because they were naked and they were ashamed of being naked. God wasn't happy. he asked Adam who had told them they were naked. And then he asked if they had eaten the fruit from that one tree that he had very, very specifically told them not to eat. Adam said, "Yeah, but it was Eve's fault. She gave it to me, and so I ate it." And Eve, in turn, blamed the snake. "He beguiled me. The snake told me that I should eat the fruit, so I did." I don't suppose that sounds anything at all like what might happen at your house sometimes. Does it? I remember when my folks would find me and my brothers fighting sometimes. And they'd ask what was going on. And I would say, "He started it." And my brother would point to me and say, "She started it." And my other brother would say, "I'm not responsible for this. It wasn't my fault." So really? Really? It was all our faults. And we all got punished. We all got punished. And that's what God did too. First, God told the snake, "Because you did this, you will have to forever crawl on your belly and people will hate you." And then he told Eve and Adam that because they had disobeyed him and eaten the fruit of the only tree he had forbidden them to eat from, they would be banished from this beautiful garden and have to live where there were thorns and thistles, and they would have to work really hard from now on just to survive. And then he made them some clothes and sent them away forever. And he set angels with flaming swords to guard the garden, so Adam and Eve could never, ever return. This is kind of a sad story, isn't it? God had told Adam and Eve that everything in the world was for them except this one tree that they couldn't touch. Everything else was for them. And instead of treasuring all that God had given them, they wanted that one thing that God had said they couldn't have. So they disobeyed God, and they ate the fruit from that one single tree that God had forbidden them to touch. And because they disobeyed God, they were banished forever from that beautiful, perfect garden. What do you think you would have done if you had met the snake that day? I'd like to think that I would have told that sneaky snake to take a hike and leave me alone. I'd like to think that I would have been strong enough and loved God enough to say, "No, thank you." But I'm not really so sure. I might have done the same thing as Eve. I might also have decided to take just one little bite in hope that God would never find out. What do you think? Well, here's something very important to think about. What should you do if you're ever tempted to do something that you know is wrong? Maybe when you're tempted to do something wrong, when some sneaky snake tries to trick you into making a bad choice, maybe you'll remember this story about Adam and Eve. You'll remember how they lost everything that was good, because they made one really bad choice and disobeyed God. If you can remember this story about a bad choice, it will help you to be strong and make good ones. We have a Bible verse today that can also help us to remember to obey God and to make good choices. It's from the Old Testament, the book of Deuteronomy. It goes like this. Love the Lord your God and always obey his laws. That's Deuteronomy 11, verse 1. Should we say it together? Love the Lord your God and always obey his laws. Deuteronomy 11:1. Good job. So let's close our lesson again today with the Lord's Prayer, asking God to help us make good choices. Say it with me if you know the words. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Amen. Thanks for joining us today. May God keep you safe until we meet again.
Hi guys, it's me again. I'm here with the craft that we're going to do for Adam and Eve. And it's a pretty simple one. You just have to print out this paper and have a pair of scissors and have your mom and dad help unless you can do it by yourself. And you're going to cut around, and then you're going to cut out these little pictures, and you can take them like this and mix them up, and then you have to put them in order, and they tell the story. Now if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. You can have them labeled 1, 2, 3 through 8, and you can make them into a book like you did last time, where you just put a little hole in the corner and put something through it and have your own little book. Or you can have them to play the game, and you can put them in a baggie to keep them. So either way works, but it's just a little craft for you to do for the Adam and Eve story. Thank you.